Welcome back to my channel. This was the chess game I just played. This guy was over 1200 until I just beat him, and I'm not quite a 1200 player, but man, I'm on my way up. It's like I'm just getting better and better with these chess games all the time. So, but being over a 1200 player, I was quite intimidated in the very beginning. So away we go. He opens up with the Italian opening here, and of course I do the obligatory move here, but he surprised me with this castling, so I just took his knight. Um, Move my knight out here. This pawn is obviously being drilled down on, so I gotta move something in front of it. He continues pushing this pawn here to, develop the bishop, I assume. I'm gonna move my bishop to where his bishop is, the equivalent, the mirror equivalent. He moves his knight out, probably with designs come into this square here, but I'm gonna move my bishop to the center, very powerful position right here. He does move his knight there, just like I thought he would, but you know me, I don't allow knights to sit here, so I move my pawn forward. Excuse me. And then he takes my knight, that's okay. So he's going to trade off queens, which is normal. I probably would have done the same thing considering that my, castle pawn is open now. So right now we're even Steven, but I feel like he's in control. His king is safe. Mine's a little bit exposed. My pawn structure is not too good. And his pawn structure, he's got a healthy position at this point in time. So right now I'm feeling like, I'm heading toward a loss, maybe. So he's threatening my bishop here. I move that out of the way, but I still want to keep, just keep the pressure in that direction. He's moving his pawn down. I'm going to start moving this pawn because I'm starting to see if I could forget about the castle. I've moved my rook here. This pawn won't be able to take, so I can move this pawn down to the end, and maybe if I have this bishop coming down later, I can create some, you gotta have designs on plans like this. So I'm getting my pawn structure fixed a little bit too while I'm making moves here. I'm gonna move this down here. This is not too concerning. I feel like it's allowing me to reposition my pieces to go more in this direction anyway. He moves this pawn up, of course. He's trying to prevent what we spoke about earlier. He's got enough foresight to see that. I'm going to park this guy right here just to eliminate the worry of this piece falling for nothing. So right now we're still pretty even Steven. Now I'm starting to get my grip a little bit. So I move my rook in front of the king. Always a pleasure to have a rook in front of the king, even if there's a piece in front of it, right? Because you can always, this pawn can no longer capture to either side, and maybe I can capture that pawn at some point, who knows. So he's on the pawn march again, but my pawn structure is pretty tough. But so looky there. So I take that. That's a free pawn right there, just because obviously he can't take it back. I'm going to move that right back to where she was, and he's not going to let that happen again, right? He moves his rook there. So now we're going to play this little game. I'm going to move my king up. I do not want to castle at this point. I'm more interested in connecting the rooks at this point in time. And I think right now with my pawn structure the way it is, I got like a fortress here. It's like better than a castle, So, okay, so he's going to push some pawns. I'm pushing. I want to double up my rooks here in case this, to keep this pawn from coming forward and undermining what I got going on. So, that's kind of the plan. He's going to attack this pawn here. But so then we have an answer for that. I'll just come over there and do that. He moves his king again because, I when you're staring down the barrel of two rooks, it doesn't look pleasant. But again, he finds himself in a position where he can't take this nuisance pawn. He moves back. I move this pawn forward. Now this is a passed pawn. Clearly, this pawn is going to occupy this. His whole job now is his responsibility is collecting this pawn. You know what I mean? He has nothing else to do there. He can't, go beyond that as a role. So he decides to switch off pieces, which is fine. I'm a pawn up. I'll switch all day if you want. This was really not a threat because there's nothing that rook can do there, so I'm not overly concerned. I just continue with my plan. My plan is to get this guy, hopefully I can undermine this pawn and get this guy over here or do something, we'll see where it goes. Anyway, so the king, he's starting to move his king away from this double barrel shotgun because you got a pass pawn and a double barrel. Yeah, it's looking kind of ugly. So right now I'm feeling pretty good about my chances, even though this guy's technically a better player than I am. So, pushing this pawn, again, I wanted to undermine this pawn, right? We just talked about that. And there you have it. The guy's gone. So now the king is still starting to get exposed here. I'm going to move this back, though, because I can't afford to lose this pass pawn. This is a very powerful piece, and it keeps this guy stuck here. It keeps him occupied in that position, so he's not even playing chess. Meanwhile, my guy is at least covering squares and can move, I'm keeping my pieces, too, if you notice, off the green squares, because the bishop can only play on half the board, so this is why I prefer to have my knights at the end of the game, but I lost both my knights. I've just got a bishop, but, bishops only play on half the board, so get rid of them. Here, this was a clever move, I thought, because it's going to allow me to do some things. And here we're just duking it out with our pawns. I wanted to settle this pawn structure and keep anything coming from this direction. So now I can focus on the king and this pawn, right? That's my entire focus at this point in the game. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come down here and I don't know what this move is about. Maybe he's trying to protect this piece. I don't know, so I'm going to check his king, get into the backfield. He's going to come for the attack, but this is where it gets sneaky. This is where I'm trying to get to right here, because once I get there, there's nothing he can do. And so, yeah, there I am. So now he has to take. Otherwise, I'm just going to take him for free, right? So I take him. He moves his rook down here, but little too late, because I have a rook just waiting in the wings, right? Double-barreled, like I said. Now this rook is not even a concern because he has to take me, otherwise I'm going to get a queen, right? He could have waited for me to get the queen, but he goes ahead and takes that, and at this point, I'm a queen ahead and 2 pawns, and he promptly resigns. Anyway, thanks for watching.